gosh, it has been a while. It gives me a great pleasure, joy, and excitement to welcome you to this, the very first edition of the Coaching Hour podcast for the new year. 2025 is here. It feels as though Christmas was just a blink. New Year didn't even happen. And we're already midway through the first month of a new year. It's just crazy. Valentine's around the corner. And it's nice to have you here. I'm Paul Rotherham. A very warm welcome. I hope you had a wonderful festive season and a good break. Although the four of us here on this edition of the Coaching Hour podcast were just saying how it feels like there was no break at all. It feels like we've gone straight from one year into the next with no real pause. But I guess that's an indication of how life is, hey? Nice to have you with us, Mary Mareka, and our first guest for the new year, Carel-Piet. Hello, 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 Amol.
Hello.
Yeah, we are
Did you all have a Did you all have a good break?
small break.
Small break. Okay. Well, a small break is better than no break, as they say. Yeah, I think
breaks.
intermittent. Have them often, even though they're short, but just make sure you do have them.
Definitely.
Lovely to have you here. We're going to get straight into today's topic. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can interact with us if you're watching this live now on social media. We will keep an eye on the comments. And after the podcast, after this recording, if there are any suggestions that you have, questions you have, or perhaps people you'd like to see featured, maybe you are a coach and you'd like to be featured yourself in one of these editions of the Coaching Hour podcast, don't be shy. We're going to make this the year of interaction. Make this the year of actually meeting you and hearing your story. It's not all about us. It's about what you can share with us as well. So we look forward to hearing from you in the comments section. And of course, you'll have all the email details and the contact info as well. Mareka will give you that towards the end of this show. Let's get into it. What are we chatting about with Carel-Piet? My favorite guest of all time is back, and that means it's going to be a good year.
Definitely. We kick this year off with Dr. Carel-Piet van Eden. And I think we're going to do a very important topic. And like you said, this year we want to make really interactive. Even though we've learned a lot from our previous guests, this year I want to learn even more, especially apply, what we learn. I think that's the most important because it's the beginning of a new year and we want to all be happy and motivated, not burnt out by the end of this year like most of the years. So we want to keep that momentum. So that's why I think today is so important. Just to introduce our guest for those who've never seen any of his interviews before. So Dr. Carel-Piet from Van Eden, he's an integrative practitioner, holistic life counselor, a doctor of ethnomedicine, and he wears many, many, many other hats, which I won't get into right now. Today we're going to talk about harnessing the power of rituals for motivation. Now, the reason why I think this is so important is it's not that we don't know what we want to do. I think we know what we want to do. We want to eat healthy and exercise and stick to our goals and all of those things. It is the motivation that is lacking. And most of my clients doesn't have that motivation to keep going. So that's why I think today, and it's a perfect start to this year. So thank you so much, Carel-Piet, for joining us for this specific topic. Maybe you can just quickly give us just some background on why did you choose in terms of rituals? What do you refer to as rituals to stick to?
So it's lovely to see you guys again. It's always fun to visit. Mareka, you mentioned last week, I think when we chatted about today, that you wanted something for the new year. And I often sit with the challenge that at the end of a year, we sit and we make our lists of New Year's resolutions. I'm going to eat healthy, and then I pack up my whole cupboard and I throw out all the unhealthy food, and that lasts a week or two. Or I'm going to start practicing. I know people who go to the gym regularly. They dread the beginning of the year because all the New Year's resolution practitioners, if we can call them that, fill up the gym. And so that's been a big challenge for many people, including myself. And then I thought about using rituals. So we are ritualistic beings. We've had rituals in our communities since the dawn of time. how can we then include a ritualistic application into our New Year's resolution or for our New Year's resolutions to make it more sustainable? So the idea for that is that when I do something in ritual, it is often symbolic. It's not necessarily I'm just eating healthy for the sake of eating healthy, but now I can include something to remind me, why am I actually doing what I'm doing? So we can use the idea of a ritual, which is a very, very open concept, and we can include that into our New Year's resolutions, or any resolution for that matter, moving forward into the year. And yeah, that's how we came to the topic.
Right.
Carel-Piet, is a ritual the same as a habit?
Not necessarily, no. For me, a ritual involves a bit more mindfulness. It can become a habit, yes. So this is now where the focus of the ritual can come in very interestingly. I practice zazen in the mornings. It is a habit, but also a ritual. So shall we say habitual ritual?
Oh, yeah, I like that.
But
So, yeah, so I would receive that information as a application to enable you to remember what you're supposed to do for the day.
yes.
Like, even though it feels like a habit, it's an intentional projection of how I want it to be today.
Exactly. Paul, for you, a habit could be going jogging every morning. But the ritual is the tying of your shoelaces and getting into the space for I'm going to jog.
So ritual is almost a habit with meaning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's often symbolic. So it's not the act itself. It is the reminder of why and how. Yeah.
Okay.
So Paul,
Like an association. Sorry. It's like an association.
Very much so. And it's a setting your state, or accessing that state.
So Paul, do you have New Year's resolutions for this year, or a few goals?
I came into the year, Zena and I were chatting about it. We each chose a word. Zena did a vision board with Mary. Mary does it for the family every year. I missed it, unfortunately, this year, but I prefer to keep things more simple. And I decided I'm going into the year with one word that will be the overriding attitude that I have in my life. And that one word for me was contentment. And obviously, I don't want to use this platform to now go into all my personal stuff, but essentially, it's just the idea that whatever I do through this year, I will be conscious of my level of contentment while I am doing it.
Yes.
So whether it's a chore, whether it's working, whether it's a stressful situation, whatever it might be, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, something out of my control, I'm just going to try and apply a feeling of contentment to everything. And it's not easy, because it is easy to just say these things. And that's why, to be honest, I've never been one of those New Year's resolution people.
Yeah.
Because I discovered very early in life's journey that most of the time, with all due respect, it's meaningless. Very few people who say these things, and I think very few people who even go as far as to write them down, actually bring them to fruition. And obviously that's where something like a vision board comes in, because you have this whole idea of things that you would like to be mindful of and focus on. And if you have 50 of them, even if there's a 1% success rate, you've still achieved something. But for me, that one word for this year is contentment. Like this show, there are times, I'll be honest, where it does become a little bit of an imposition. It's, oh gosh, sure, but I've got to set aside an hour today to do the coaching hour, and I'm busy with my Lego orders, and I've got a lot happening with Shopbeat, and I didn't do my run this morning. And so even though these are things that I do enjoy and I get a lot out of them, there are times in our lives where it's more of a chore than it is a pleasure. And throughout all of those things, driving in the car, spending time with people who I might not like, all of those things, I'm just going to try and apply an attitude of contentment. So that's a long answer to a short question.
It's a good answer. I love that because it's one focused thing that you're going to do for this year. And I think it's easier, digestible, it's easier to focus on than, like you said, 50 goals that I might have. I like that. Well done.
And for yourselves, Mary, Marika, Shiatsu, just so we can set the stage for other people giving this some thought.
Mary, you can go.
Okay, so I'm continuing with my 10-year plan. And my vision is to uplift and encourage and to reach out to the community that can't afford this kind of information. So that's what I'm planning, and visualizing. That's it. I visualize the outcome. So my focus is on visualizing the outcome and being consistently focused, using words that and thoughts that help me get to the goal.
Very good. Awesome. So you like it more visual?
Yeah, I'm a visionary.
I struggle sometimes with the visual. For me, I like at the beginning of the year to look back at the previous year. For me, it's more a reflection type of process, to see what did I want to achieve in the last year? What was my focus? What do I want to do different this year? So for me, it's not really about resolutions. But especially for my business, I need to set direction for myself, especially if you're an entrepreneur. I believe you create your own opportunities. So you need to set aside time to think, this year, how am I going to take my business to the next level? What am I going to do differently? Because that's up to you. So for me, it's a lot sometimes about my business, but also one of the things that came up for me that was similar to Paul is happiness. To focus on happiness this year, doing things or making more time for having fun, because we work and we work and we're busy. And for me, it is just to make sure that you, for now, schedule at least in advance a few weekends that you're going to do something fun, because we forget.
Yeah.
Can I weigh in on something there just before Shiatsu
Yeah.
gives his thoughts, just very quickly? When Zeno and I were discussing the words, because this literally came to me, I woke up one morning. I don't even think it was symbolic in that it wasn't the 1st of January. I think it was around the end of the year when obviously I was giving some thought to 2025. And I said to Zeno exactly what you've said. I used the same word. I used the word happy. And I said, in 2025, I would like to be happy. And we spoke about it for quite a while. And we had this really in-depth conversation. And what we concluded is that happiness is fleeting. Contentment is more sustainable.
True.
And contentment is more of a way of living where happiness can come and go. Somebody can ring your doorbell now and it's the parcel that you ordered online. And for the 2 or 3 minutes that it's here and you're opening it up, you're happy. And then that feeling quickly passes. Or your partner comes home and you're happy. Whatever those moments of happiness are. And we discussed this, and I'm saying this because I think a lot of people could benefit from understanding that happiness is often fleeting. It really is. It's these doses of endorphins and feeling good because little things keep happening, where contentment, I think, is more of taking 3 or 4 steps back and looking at your life as an overview and kind of having the idea that no matter what happens, there'll be moments in the day where I'm happy. I'm sure there'll be moments in the day where I'm unhappy. But the overall context and description is contentment or being content. So just to set the stage for me, happiness is fleeting, where contentment is long-lasting.
No, I agree.
Isn't it the same as that inner peace?
That could be peace. I guess it depends on the word that resonates with you the most. For me, I would, to have peace, to have inner peace, contentment. Yeah. Now, Shiatsu and you?
So, dualistic a bit. Work is hectic as usual. So we're running some exciting projects, and so the focus is going to be on expansion and not dropping any balls while we expand the practice. But personally is halfway between what Mary and Marika said, future looking and backwards looking, and that is being present. that's something that's coming up for me quite a lot these days. And I read a beautiful quote where they said, when a thought comes, open your front door for them, open the back door, but do not offer them tea.
Yes.
So when sitting in that state of meditation or of awareness or prayer or whatever we want to call it, just to be present in that moment and to try and take that awareness of the present or presence into the day as well.
Okay.
That is such a wonderful quote, isn't it?
Yes.
Open the front door, open the back door, but don't offer them tea. That's just let it pass. Let it come through your life.
Yes.
Don't try and stop it. Don't lock the door, bolt the door, and slam the trolley door.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. Who was it that said that? Is that someone famous or?
I will have to get it's paraphrased somewhere that I heard it, so I'll have to look it up. And it's something that we oftentimes do when we want to become still and reflect, or not reflect or meditate, that you try so hard not to think that you get overwhelmed with thought.
Yeah.
So one thing that I basically do, and I also, teach, my clients, is every morning to write down, their goals. Although it's a repetition, I think now that you've mentioned the word ritual, I think it's more of a ritual than it is a habit, because if you sit in the morning, you take 10 minutes to write down what your intention is for this year, then at least you start your day more intentional than just going through the motions.
Yes. And that's where the ritualistic habit or habitual ritual then comes in.
Because we lose motivation. There's actually a video by Mel Robbins, or interview of Mel Robbins, where she says motivation is garbage. Because we tend to think that I have to feel motivated in order to do something. I need to feel like it to go to the gym. I need to feel like, doing this or doing that. And then we wait for that feeling, and then the feeling doesn't come.
Yeah.
So there is a difference between motivation and inspiration.
Yes.
So when I do my vision boards with people, I ask them, what inspires you? Because it's the inspiration that keeps you motivated.
Yes. And that's where the ritual is usually then the reminder of that inspiration. And I think something that we oftentimes also neglect to do is to celebrate small victories throughout. We set this massive goal. When I work with the ADD kids, I tell their parents that we tell our kids at the end of the year, if you pass the exam, I will buy you this massive whatever gift they want.
Xbox game or whatever.
Xbox game. It's like telling me, if you go and run the Congress, I'll buy you a new car. I'll be extremely excited. But if I turn out at the Comrades the way that I look now, I will do 2 kilos and have a heart attack.
Yes.
But if I start training every day and I celebrate that small bit of training every day, then maybe in 2 years' time, I can maybe go and run it. We don't know. So small reward, daily reward, weekly reward, and then we can set our goals for the long term and the big rewards. It might be going for a cup of coffee with a friend.
Yeah,
simple as that. And it might be something that you would do already. It's just, again, the idea and the mindfulness that you then place behind that.
Yeah, it's like acknowledging your small steps of achievement. You know what else is good is to look back at your old vision board, the previous couple of years. I mean, I was astounded when I looked. I found mine of 10 years ago. It's incredible. I'm doing everything today what I visualized and said I want to do.
Amazing.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't doing workshops. I was selling property.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said it in the present. I'm so grateful now that I'm running workshops, and what my students are saying. They're having aha moments, and they want to come back, and they, all of this stuff as if it is now,
Yeah.
and it's happening
Now it's a
right now.
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may have taken 10 years. And I think that's also something to mention here is that the timeline needn't be overnight.
Yeah.
Because we live in an age where it's instant gratification, instant satisfaction, as the Stones would have said. And very often that's not the case. I mean, Mary, you're a perfect example of that. 10 years ago, you saw yourself where you are now. It didn't happen in a month or 6 months or even a couple of years. It took a while. So
it's like
I think
one step at a time. I was getting closer to it, but not realizing that I'm actually getting there. It was just one step at a time, just being focused, intentional, being inspired about the desires of my heart, and just consistently being intentional and focused.
And I would put it to you, I'm no expert in this, but I would put it to you that the chances of you being now, 10 years later, where you wanted to be 10 years ago, would have been massively reduced had you not put it on a vision board. And obviously, I'm not saying that a vision board is the secret to success and that it'll work for everybody. Some people write mantras on their fridges. Some people put things in their phone. Some people perhaps watch motivational videos. I think we all have our ways of doing things and feeling motivated and encouraged. But for you, to me, that's fantastic that it worked, because to just give it some thought fleetingly and then life interrupts you, and before you know it, a week's gone by and you haven't done anything. That's a very different process to having a vision board that I would assume you prepare your vision board and you put it somewhere where you can see it, right?
Yeah. And it's always in my mind. It's the thoughts I think and the words I speak that move me closer to my goal. That was my mantra every day. Every thought I think and every word I speak moves me closer to my goal. And my
Sounds like a song from the
visualization
police.
the visualization, that ritual picture that I have in my mind is a ladder.
Okay.
So I see myself stepping on each step towards the top.
Yeah. And actually there's never really a top, because when you get to the top, there's a next ladder.
Yeah.
There's the next thing. But I'm the same as you, Mary. Everything I've written down, my goals, I've realized every single one. So, and I'm sure, Siapia, you are the same. You set your intentions and things almost magically just happen, although you've set those intentions before.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And I've gone through times where I did not set those intentions and nothing happened. So I was telling Marika in December, I got new equipment that I had been drooling over for the last 5 years, 6 years now. And suddenly it just happened that I got all the equipment. And before that, there was, I want to help people. That was such a vague idea that
you can help
nothing
people in
concrete
many
really came
ways.
from it. Exactly. So knowing what the top of the ladder looks like is really important.
I think all of these people who speak on goal setting, what I remember from what most of them say is that you have to be specific.
Yes.
A lot of people use this idea, for instance, of wealth and say, oh, I want to be rich. And all the gurus will say to you, rich doesn't do it. It doesn't cut it. How much money, literally, how much money would you like to have in your bank account? Where would you like to be living? Like literally, how does the house look? Be specific about your intentions and your goals, because the more specific you are, the more likely that you're going to achieve them. And that's not my domain. I'm not a motivational speaker when it comes to goal setting, but I think there must be some truth in that. It makes sense. My dad always said, growing up from when I was very young, he said to me, knowing where you're going is halfway to getting there. And I think it's pretty much the same meaning, just in different words.
Yeah. True. I mean, if you get into your car and decide I'm going to go on holiday, you start driving with no idea where you're going, how will you ever get there? You'll run out of petrol before then.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There is a science behind writing it down and visualizing. It activates certain neurological processes in your brain.
Mm.
And in your brain, we have an activation called reticular activation system. Do you know that one, Sylvia?
I
And
do.
so,
What do you?
so that reticular activation system then kicks in, and then your brain will it will bring you your attention to things that are important to you, that you've written down, that you've visualized. So then you see opportunities that you never saw before, but they were there.
Yeah.
Very true.
I
Yeah.
don't want to bore anybody with the details, but am I right, Mary, in saying that when you say write it down, you physically mean piece of paper and a pen? Because writing something is very different to hopping on your phone or your laptop or your device and typing it in. Am I right?
Yes.
I'm sure that even if you write it into because you are doing a physical activity on something,
It's just more
it's an
effective
energy. I think
writing.
yes, it's an energy that you're projecting because everything is atoms. So when you put something on paper, you're actually performing in the energy field to bring that to a matter, a physical state.
They've just done some research, in comparing when you actually make notes on a tablet or a phone or writing it down, that your memory retention, the way that your brain processes the information is very different. You get different, it's just the neurological connections that happens when you're physically writing is very different from typing it on a phone or a laptop. It's not the same neurological process that's happening. So yes, I guess it can make a difference, but it's just more effective physically writing
Yes.
it down. And with me, if you, with repetition, every day writing the same goal, you start shaping that goal even more because you get more ideas. You start changing, formulating it differently, shaping it different. So I prefer
Yeah,
the.
and it's the questions as well, the questions that you ask yourself.
Mm,
You said in the beginning, how can I make my business grow and expand?
mm,
Those are the questions that when you ask yourself, it triggers something or activates something in your own unique talent skill pool
mm,
where the information and ideas come into your mind. And
mm.
that's the inspiration. And then you act on that.
Yeah.
Sometimes
And
we don't listen. We don't listen to that little voice that says, try this.
Yeah. You'd say, ah, whatever, it's not going to work. People will think I'm stupid if I do this, talk ourselves out of it.
yeah. And important when we ask those questions for me that we ask them out loud.
Yes.
Get out of your head. Get them.
Yeah.
It's almost better if somebody else can ask them for you. So you have a sounding board or a partner in this asking you the right questions so that you activate the creative process.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think this is really valuable. Thank you, CFP. I think ritual can be different for every person. For Mary, it could be a ritual of looking at a vision board every morning, sitting down for 5 minutes, to really take it in. For Paul, it could be that word that maybe you write down in your diary and just remind yourself of contentment. For me, it's again writing in the morning my goals. For you, it is what's that ritual you're doing in the morning, CFP?
Zazen.
Zazen, I don't even know what that is. But
Tell us, what is Zazen?
Zazen is a Buddhist meditation where you don't do anything. You only just sit. That's the whole practice.
we'll be
So it's like
challenging.
not speaking.
Not speaking, not thinking, well, allowing the thoughts, but only just sitting and being. Yeah.
How long do you do it for?
45 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's discipline.
I would say that the majority of the planet doesn't just sit and do nothing for 45 minutes, probably in more than a month, because
Most of
that's
our
not
lives.
sleeping.
No.
Sleeping is different to actively doing nothing.
And
There is a
this
difference.
thing is a distraction. If you're waiting for someone at the, or on the airport or waiting for someone in a restaurant, you grab this thing instead of just sitting. and observing. I like
Shiatsu, do you have any, when I say background music, that's perhaps the wrong expression, but any sounds, or because I've seen a lot of so-called Buddha soundtracks on YouTube that are very good for helping you sleep, and it's different frequencies, and those bowls, I forget the exact word for those bowls where they have a certain frequency, the ringing bowls. Do you have any of that, or is it literally you just sit in silence?
You just sit in silence, and it's not, you start, at 45 minutes. It took 5 years, 6 years now, and I can maybe do it and keep that mind of only just sitting for a couple of seconds in those 45 minutes. So it takes time, but with this specific practice, there's nothing, no tools. It's just you doing nothing.
And then when you hear sounds like a bird singing or, airplane come past.
Open the front door, open the back door, don't invite them in for tea. Birds don't like tea.
That's the whole thing. You are aware without judgment.
Yes.
And that's extremely difficult. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you mentioned it took you 5 years, because a lot of people will be hard on themselves because I can't do this, because I can't sit still for 20 minutes or 45 minutes. But you probably started with 5 minutes, and it took you a year to go from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So really, be patient and start small.
Yeah. So I use Insight Timer with those gongs. So the gong is my start and my finish time. And I would add 10 seconds every week or two.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just
out of interest
of development. You're developing.
Do you do this at all, Mary or Marika? Do you do something similar?
At times, but not religiously like Sepia. Like
I do it every morning.
I don't.
Meditation.
Yes, I meditate every morning, but I don't sit still and hear nothing. I do listen to guided meditation, or I vary, but every morning I do set an intention for the day, because I found it so rewarding and so powerful. Because yesterday I swam, for an hour, and during my swimming I visualize while I'm swimming every stroke, every kick, and I say things about my strokes. Every stroke brings me closer to whatever the vision is, well, I have got a very big 10-year plan. It's to get buses for the Shaping Champions program to go into the rural areas with equipment. And I visualize that. And when that happens, people come into my energy space and they start talking. From nowhere. I mean, yesterday I met a Taiwanese lady. Please, can I speak to you just for 5 minutes?
Does she have a bus?
I said, and she was so impressed with what I was doing. I was in Tembisa. And then she said, I'd love to collaborate with you. I said, well, tell me about yourself. No, she said she's in Africa and she's working in township to uplift the underprivileged. I said, but where do you get your funding from? And she said, it's Taiwanese businessmen that plow into a fund, and they bring that into the country. So I'm going to get my buses from them.
It will happen. That's for a fact. I know that for a fact, Mary. Everything that you visualized has happened so far, and even sooner than when you visualized it for. So I know.
And she was blown away when I said, I need buses.
It's going to happen.
Put it out there. I mean, even the fact that we're having this conversation now on the coaching hour, we don't know how far this podcast is going to go. We don't know in what corner of the world somebody is watching this, listening to this, and someone who resonates with your vision could well be that person that ultimately helps you get the buses for this project. So just the fact that we're having this conversation, I think, will change the course for all of us in some way. It's all about exposing yourself to, that came out wrong, opening yourself to the opportunities. and yeah, sharing what your vision is and sharing your dreams and desires and goals. Because if they all stay in here, they're never going to leave. You'll never realize them.
Yes.
Don't die with your music inside you, is what Wayne
Yes.
Dyer said.
Wow.
Sure.
Beautiful.
All right, Siep.
Well, that was a lovely first show. I'm so thrilled that we had Siep here as our guest. And again, not to undermine any of our other guests, but there's something very special about you, Siep here. We'd like to say thank you, because whenever you're featured, you just bring you bring meaning and depth, and I always think whenever I hear you speak, for ages afterwards, things go around in this little brain of mine, and I think about what you've said. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of not only Mary and Marika, but anybody who watches this content. So thank you.
Thank you
It's
so
those
much.
rituals, Paul.
That's the rituals, yeah.
That's the rituals. The silence.
Silence is important. Somebody once said, what, 2 ears and 1 mouth? Use them in that proportion.
Through that.
Yeah, thank you, Sipe. It was really, I think this was a really great start for this new year. If you have any final thoughts you would like to leave people with, and also where people can get hold of you, I mean, you are a counselor, coach, you work with kids also with ADHD, you do many, many things, but you also do the therapy at your practice for cancer patients. If people don't know, to get hold of you there as well. So yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, drcarel.com. I think would be the easiest to get in touch for whatever we do here. And final thoughts, be adaptable in your ritual. It need not be set in stone. Things change, life changes. So don't then give up because it doesn't fit into your circumstances anymore. Be able to change that and be okay with just not being there and being okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Cool.
On that note, thank
Final
you.
say, Marika?
Hey,
What is your final say?
my final say. Oh, I didn't even prepare to would be put on the spot. No, I think what CP said is important, be flexible, because you might think I'm going to gym for so long or meditate for so long. It's okay. 5 minutes is better than nothing a day. I think at least if there's some reminder daily of who you want to become this year, who you want to be this year, I think that's important. Yeah.
And you, Paul?
I think just to be content. I think you have to be careful about setting up expectations that then you fall short of, because that can be counterproductive. So celebrate the small victories, be content, and realize for the very first time that Marika's surname Swartz is actually straws backwards.
No, I'm never gonna forget.
I've just noticed right now.
Oh wow, you're bright this busy.
To remember her name.
Straws.
Yes. Does your name suck?
It's funny.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to your comments and your feedback on this podcast. That concludes this edition of the Coaching Hour, brought to you in partnership with Coaches Network South Africa. Thank you so much, everyone.